Welcome to the Gourds and Pomegranates podcast, talking common sense for church communications. Here's Hannah and Joe.
Here on Gourds and Pomegranates, we are really keen and here to give you advice that is down to earth that you can use every day in your church comms, including really practical step-by-step advice of taking the different areas of communications that we talk about and actually putting them in place. We recently covered the question of, is it worth the time to invest in a ministry of church communications? And so we want to help you in the most hands-on way so that you can do things efficiently and therefore give a wholehearted yes, it is worth the time. So today we're going to be talking about social media and in particular scheduling content in advance. So Hannah, this is your area of expertise, so over to you.
No panic. Oh dear. So I do love talking about social media. And honestly, getting sort of on with social media and doing it successfully is a challenge, like even if it's your full-time job. And it's even more so challenging if you're doing it alongside numerous other comms roles, let alone doing comms alongside other ministries and responsibilities within your church. But do not fear. There are always ways to make it that little bit easier. And scheduling in particular, scheduling your social media will help to save time posting. So you aren't relying on posting on the day, at the time, at the moment when you think of the idea. And it can also just help to minimize risks in case something happens and you can't get onto your social media platforms. So we're going to cover a few top tips for getting started with scheduling your church content.
Let's go.
So the first thing is actually thinking about the content and planning it. So to know what to schedule, you need to actually plan your content and having a content plan so you know what you're posting across all platforms, thinking about certain campaigns, specific talks, events, or sermon series that you might need to highlight. We've talked about it before, but doing a sort of weekly content plan in a separate spreadsheet so you can see a week or even a month ahead really helps you to sort of have a kind of bird's eye view of all the things that you need to talk about. And then actually going in and scheduling all of those different pieces of content sort of for the week upcoming can be done a lot more efficiently than actually if you were posting each post manually as you come up with the idea.
So you're saying having the bigger picture and then narrowing it down bit by bit to the point where you actually go and write the content. But that doesn't mean that you're just starting with a blank page trying to write however many tweets.
Yeah, no, absolutely not. Don't even think about going into those social media platforms to begin with. We've just got a spreadsheet where you're thinking about what platforms is the church or your organization already on, and actually what are the key messages you need to be getting out that week. Once you've written your content, you can flesh it out a bit more by adding in the right images, videos, links, tags, or whatever else needs to get added in. Then look at what platforms and when you want to be posting. Remember to keep the balance right for your content. Don't let them be sort of all the selly, come to church on a Sunday, come to church on a Sunday, come to our Sunday service, but mix it up with local news, even church news, church stories from your family, updates from mission partners, and so much more. Think about the types of content you looked at in your comm strategy and what you can pull out to mix things up. I then like to color code things when I'm actually planning my schedule out. So I have one color for draft ideas, one for finished content, one for scheduled items. And then when I'm next in the spreadsheet, sort of at the end of the week, I'll change all the ones that have been posted so that they are now saying that they're published rather than just scheduled.
That's interesting because when you first said color coded, I thought of that in a different way. So for me, I'd probably have more of like a column which has the status, but I might think about using the colors for those different types of content. Because if I'm saying, okay, any messages that I put out that are inviting to an event, I'm going to put in green. And then I start to put my content out and I realize, there's a whole lot of green and not many other colors here.
Yeah.
Then maybe I need to think about some of those other things, like you said, from the comms plan. And so help to vary it up a little bit because that variety is really important.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Yeah, I think I have mine in my content calendars. I look at it via the topic. So that's one of my columns, and I tend to look at it in there.
But this is a case of whatever works for you. You're going to adapt it over time, and there's no right or wrong way.
For me, it's about knowing what their status is rather than what their topic or theme are, because generally I'll have planned it out topic wise a step earlier.
Yeah.
So for me, the color is about knowing at what point in the publishing sort of stage are they. But it's okay to start slow, even coming up with a list of kind of 16 pieces of content, maybe beyond what you can handle right now. And that's absolutely okay. If that's the case, come up with 4 and have one post each week that it's scheduled in on 1 or 2 platforms.
You can build it from there.
Exactly. Then the next thing is to time it right. One thing I see a lot of people getting wrong with content creation when they're doing it across multiple platforms is posting everything at the same time on the same platform in the same way. It's not really a great way to be creating and engaging with your audience. Facebook doesn't like it if you post a lot of things in one day, whereas Twitter absolutely loves it. So you need to think about the frequency and the messaging of the posts. So if we had 5 different pieces of content going out over a week, I might do on Facebook Monday, Tuesday, Thursday, Friday, and Saturday. But perhaps I might repeat something from Monday or Tuesday to go out again on Twitter on Friday and Saturday alongside the other pieces of content going out. So I'm repeating things from earlier in the week just to add more to my feed and actually bulk out what people are going to see. It might also work being posted every other day in somewhere like Instagram stories, but not on the main feed. You don't need to stress about everything being overly different for every platform, but do try to make a little tweak or changes to the timings, frequencies, maybe the wording slightly. But equally, something going out is often better than nothing at all going out.
Yeah. Would you say as well that that is something which can apply to the length of posts? So if you're posting less frequently to Facebook, would that be with slightly longer posts that perhaps you could split up into a few different tweets, for example?
Yeah, no, absolutely. So I had something like that today. I was posting on one of the accounts that I run about a previous webinar series that I'd done, and it was 3 different videos, but it all went into one post because I could link to the one page. So on Facebook, that was one post. However, on Twitter, I think I did 4 or 5 tweets in total because I decided to pick for each video. I made it into a new tweet. So I did an intro, video 1, video 2, video 3, closing tweet. Because actually, it wouldn't fit all in one post, but because there was now multi-tweets going out, more people will be likely to see it because different people will engage with different ones.
Yeah, and it goes back to, in the comms plan, talking about choosing the different platforms and the fact that different people use different platforms, but also they'll use platforms in a different way. And Twitter is very much a concise, quickly digested piece of content and then on to the next one. So I think that fits in well with that. Yeah.
Yeah. And actually, that also works for thinking about Instagram for your visual content of kind of almost breaking down your graphics so that maybe a poster won't quite fit because actually a poster doesn't look good on Instagram feed. But what you could do is make 3 separate graphics, square size, but actually it's got the event name. So say it was a musical concert at your church happening to raise money for one of your mission partners. And you'd have maybe the event title and the date with alongside sort of something saying about like a mission partner logo or something. Then on the second post, you could have sort of times if they're doing particular pieces of music, etc. And then on the third post, you could have we're raising money for this mission partner. They do these things. Now, those are all individual images, but they are put then as a carousel post into one post going up, and then you can even write all the content as well. But actually, you're breaking it down so it looks better visually. However, that post would not necessarily work as well on Facebook because maybe on Facebook, the whole poster as one image would be better.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I do it all the time with Instagram posts that there'll be something that grabs you and then you see the little dots underneath, which mean you can swipe it, which, the carousel. And then I'll read through the rest of the content. And it's I guess, similar to if people reply in threads on Twitter, but you're still seeing that content. It's just a case of showing someone what they need to hook them in to be interested a bit more.
Yeah.
And then, giving them the next details when they need them and when they swipe across. Yeah,
exactly. And taking this back to scheduling, that to have to think about doing all of these different types of posts at the time that you think of them or something, or actually just having to think through, well, actually, how am I going to put this out? that does then become quite overwhelming. Whereas if you've
Mm,
got your content plan, you've got right, this is the week's messaging we're doing, right? How can I do this post to highlight this event on all of these different platforms? How do I need to change it slightly? Do I want to change it at all? Perhaps they absolutely do work across all of your main platforms. But actually having the plan and being able to schedule them means then you're not stressing, oh my gosh, I haven't posted that out and that really should have gone out because we're only a week away and we haven't sold enough
mm.
tickets or something like that.
Not least if you may need someone else to design the graphics slightly differently so you can use them on Instagram if you're working as
Yeah.
part of a team.
Team. Exactly. And then making sure that everyone else has got the right things, that if they need to go in there, so maybe you do the social media for your church, but you don't do the newsletter or you don't manage the website, that actually you need to be thinking, is the website to sell the tickets gone up yet? But equally, do I need to make sure that the newsletter or the magazine person has got the right graphics and assets that they need to be able to post their content up?
Yeah. And I'm always really aware when we talk about a team like that many churches would find that alienating.
Mm.
I've been in a big church where we have been blessed to have volunteers to specialize in those different areas. Although, as often happens in big churches, it can quite often still fall to the same person. But I've also seen small churches where everyone's stretched, but they're sharing the load because someone might have a little bit more knowledge about how to update the website, even if that's just because someone's shown them before, whereas someone has a bit more knowledge on social media. So what we're not envisaging whenever we mention a team is that you've got a full-time design agency working for your church, but actually it's still possible to share the load. And that's very much in our mind when we're talking about that.
Yeah, absolutely. Continuing our theme of timing your social media content, try not to leave things until the last minute. Quite often I'm seeing posts about events which are literally happening in just a few hours' time, and you're seeing it sort of being posted at 5 o'clock and the event starts at 7:30.
But I have plans.
I'm just going to drop everything and come to this concert. Sounds wonderful.
Okay, I'm in.
Whilst reminders on the day can be helpful, I'm all up for some sort of hypes on Instagram stories showing the venue, oh, we've put the seats out, or oh, they're practicing, they're getting ready and stuff like that. That's great. Majority of the time, if it's on your main feed, people on social media probably will not see your content until a day or two after you've posted it. You need to give people time to respond and take the action that you're hoping for them to take. Then think as well about optimizing the posting time. Now, I don't think you need to keep as sort of regimented to these by constantly changing your specific times when your insights suggest that there's a better time for when your audience is online. There was a whole time a couple of years ago when people were like, I have to post at 10:19 or 5:37 because that makes it look less obvious. And I mean, it's good to not be sort of bang on the same time all the time, but you need to think about the audience that you're going to target with that piece of content. So is it for someone who's online during the day, or actually someone who's at work and then more online on the evenings? Is it something people will sign up to straight away? So perhaps it could be shorter notice. Or does it require a bit more time for people to make a commitment to attending or engaging with the post? Or literally, is it just something that they can respond immediately to, and there doesn't need to be sort of so much of a time gap between when the deadline is? You can have regular posts going out at 8 a.m. or sort of 6 p.m. times, but remember to change the timings occasionally so it doesn't look sort of too strictly scheduled, and that actually there's no real person behind it posting. It is just a machine, and that can be a little bit sort of, it puts it off for people if they see it's the same time every time.
Yeah, I think that's often the case. That's assuming that they're looking at the time it was posted, because they probably won't see it at exactly that time. I think one potential exception is if you have a regular feature.
Yeah.
So let's say that you're a big enough church, or you've got a big enough following that it's sustainable for you to post out every morning with a video or a short audio message, or even just a request for prayer or something. Then obviously people will expect to see the content at that time. So that's absolutely fine to do it at the same time then.
Absolutely. Yeah. Now, the big question you're all waiting for. Where do I go to schedule content?
Controversial.
Drum roll. I know. There are a couple different options to choose from, and most of them do offer free versions, which is, I think, quite useful for churches. But equally, we would also encourage you to think about the fact that actually if it does save your team or you, if you are a one-man team, if it saves you time, effort and peace and gives you peace of mind, it is worth the investment into those. And that's not just for scheduling, that's for any kind of app or resource that you might use. I have had a lot of experience with most of these tools, but equally, the major two that I do use fairly regularly and would recommend in the first instances are Buffer and Hootsuite. So Buffer is probably the easiest one to navigate around. It's very user intuitive. It's very obvious what you need to be doing. And it also actually allows you to reschedule content that has already been posted so that actually you can sort of repurpose content if it is those, as you said, Joe, those kind of repeat things such as prayers or little videos that can go out sort of fairly frequently. Also within Buffer, you can set these kind of key times, and then you just literally click and drag content into it. So it's quite easy to use, and really you just the free version is absolutely great.
Yeah, Buffer's my go-to. I know we've talked about it before, but just
Mm,
the simplicity of it,
yeah,
it makes it really easy to use and really quick to use as well. So that's why I
yeah,
like it.
yeah. And I think there are a number of other features within it that I don't even really look at that much, but even there within the free version, that I think there's kind of those neat little features that really do offer more. Then Hootsuite. It is a little bit more complicated, but does offer a lot of different features. Um, I most of the time use a free version, but I have with previous clients had an access to a paid one, and the amount of stuff that you can do within it, because it's not just scheduling, but you can have all of your social media sort of feeds in one space so you can kind of see across all platforms what's going on. You can have kind of like watch lists for specific hashtags or phrases. So say with us, hashtag church comms or something like that. And actually we can see who's talking church comms, and that would come up in one feed. So there's loads of things beyond even just scheduling that are quite good with Hootsuite. It's a little more complicated to navigate around, but if you are interested in using it, there'll be loads of YouTube videos to sort of guide you through it. But it is good as well, and does offer good options for a free one. Then you've got other tools, including Later, HubSpot, Monday, Sprout Social, Feedly, Meet Edgar, and to be honest, there are loads more.
I like Meet Edgar because they sent me a free hat before, so I'm
That's
all
okay.
aboard
That's
the
pretty
Meet
cool.
Edgar train. It's got an octopus on it.
Yeah, I did use them sort of way back many years ago, but in preparation for this episode, I did have a quick look at their website. And actually, one of the things that I saw that I didn't realize that they did is that you can categorize content via sort of content pillars. So, again, if you're thinking about your comm strategy and sort of your different areas of content, I thought actually that's quite a good thing because, again, you can see, oh, we've got loads of the promo selling theme. We haven't got so much on encouraging or stories.
Yeah, they're also really big on repurposing your past content,
Mm, mm.
and have sort of tools that help you to do that. So that might be something that's worth a look at as well.
Then you can also schedule within the platforms. If you're posting within Facebook, scheduling within the Meta Business Suite is good. It's not the easiest to navigate around. It sort of seems quite small, but it's always good to get familiar with the sort of the back end of Facebook and just understanding sort of Meta Business Suite in case you do need it in the future. And the same goes for other platforms as well. Twitter, though it only comes up on certain accounts, does offer scheduling as well as Instagram, though sort of the capabilities can be a bit hit and miss sometimes.
Would you say if you only had one social account, is it worth looking at a third-party tool like Buffer or Hootsuite, or should you just go straight to that platform, assuming that platform allows you to schedule?
Hmm. Yeah, I mean, again, the likelihood is most places will have a Facebook page minimum, rather than Twitter or Instagram. So yeah, if you've only got Facebook, it's just easier to do it directly into Facebook, I'd say. I think there is slight algorithm pandering, if one is allowed to say that. I think Facebook do prefer it if you schedule within their
The
systems.
age-old debate.
I
If
know.
you look at any of the content produced by the third-party tools, they will tell you there's absolutely no
No,
advantage. But
yeah.
then they do have a vested interest in telling you that.
Yeah, and
I-
it's tricky. I mean, I don't know, and it probably isn't true. It probably isn't. But I think that there's I definitely think you run the risk of there being, yeah, a third party disconnect, or a disconnect between your third party and your platform. If you're scheduling just into Facebook, just schedule it through Facebook.
That's fair.
Then I've also recently been asked about scheduling content within other kind of apps and resources like Canva. Now, I personally haven't used Canva to schedule, and part of me is a little reluctant to recommend it. Now, I love Canva and I will sing its praises to the hills, but I use it to create visual content, not to schedule. And when I'm planning content, I want to have a spread. As I've said numerous times, I have a spreadsheet in a format that I have created with the little things that I need to be thinking about, like days, specific times if I've got multiple posts going out in a day because it's going out onto Twitter or Instagram, themes, topics, what platforms it is, certain links.
Just having that top-down view, really, isn't it?
Exactly. And the Canva calendar, from what I could see, was not displayed in a way that I would find helpful. And plus, from what I hear, it's a bit awkward to link up to the right accounts. If your Canva is linked with one email, but then obviously the Facebook page is done through another email's profile account, it all just sounded very complicated. It didn't seem the easiest to link it all up. So, to be honest, I would just recommend using Canva for what it is best for, creating pretty awesome visual content, and don't do the scheduling through it. Someone said to me, "Oh, but I want to say it seems easier to schedule directly through it." Actually, I don't think that that's the best use of the tool, to be honest.
That's fair. I think it might be something that's worth looking into. It's certainly going to be something where they'll invest more of their efforts to try and keep
Mm,
people using, within that tool. Um, so it might be that actually, if you've got a very, very small amount of content, that it's worth looking into.
yeah,
But if you're looking to grow and have, again, that overview of all the different
yeah,
content that you're posting, then it's probably worth using something which is specialized to do that job,
yeah,
as Canva is to creating content.
yeah. And not just the quantity of content, but actually the quantity of platforms that then if you're
Mm.
posting across lots of different platforms, or you're actually scheduling other things that have nothing to do with Canva because actually for once it's a link from your website and stuff like that. So yeah, I mean, I will look into it so that I know it, but from what I saw trying to do a little research, it didn't seem the sort of the most logical for my work.
So we've planned and written our content, we've added any images, and then we've actually got around to scheduling it, whether that's using a tool or directly to the platform. So we can just switch off, right?
Yeah, of course, you've done all the hard work. You don't need to do anything like ever
Good,
again.
I'll go on holiday.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Why not? No. Um you do need to still check it.
Check it.
Check it, yeah. It's you need to remember to not just plan, schedule too far in advance and you forget about it. And unfortunately, something goes out that possibly is a little insensitive to something topical that's happening. So one example I saw last year, and honestly, I've used it several times in some examples already, and I think it was, I don't say a wonderful example because it was a really awful thing that happened, but it was a great example of how to do scheduling poorly. So last year, there was a TV show about drag queens that scheduled a post out. There was something along the lines, can't remember exactly what it was, of this week sees the finale of the race. Who will take the crown? And there was this crown, and not any other week, this would have been, nothing new. That's what their show's about. Except this post happened to be scheduled and went out the same day that Queen Elizabeth passed away.
Awkward.
I know it was, and a lot of people were sharing it, saying this is exactly, this is when not checking things through can really come back to sort of bite you in the backside.
Oh, we've gone viral. Oh, no, wait.
Yeah,
That's
but
not the kind of attention we
totally
want.
nice for totally the wrong reasons. No one had thought to check that week's scheduled content, especially when there kind of is an overlapping, even not an intentional messaging, being queen and crown. Like, the queen was really ill that week. and no one thought to check the scheduled content going out that week, the potential that she might pass away and perhaps putting something about taking the crown would be probably quite insensitive to the nation. No, this is why I'd say, unless things are absolutely not changing at all, you could get away with a month in advance to be scheduled for something repetitive. As you said already, here's a link to a prayer request or some videos or something like, here's a link for our Sunday live stream. Those things aren't going to be changing unless something serious happened, but the likelihood is they can stay the same. They could be scheduled, I'd say, up to a month, just so that you've not got loads of work to do. But generally try not to schedule general content, so those things that might change, more than a fortnight in advance, at the risk that something goes wrong, gets changed, or just isn't really reading the room for the rest of your feed, and that something, actually falls back on, well, we've posted this since people saw it before we could delete it, and actually we've got a lot of community outrage, or actually suddenly we have again gone viral for the wrong thing. At the very least, make sure you have a quick look at the beginning of the week just to check what's going out, and actually, again, what's topical news, and if there's going to be any overlap.
Okay, so we've done the planning, we've done the writing, we've done the scheduling, and we're keeping somewhat aware of what's actually going out. Now it's time that I can go on holiday, right?
Yeah. And then you won't have any more people engaging with you, because it is really important not to dump and ditch. Don't just dump some content and ditch your community. It's really important that when you schedule, you aren't just dumping, a load of content. Ideally it would be, a helpful amount for you to schedule, and that you aren't then leaving your community to engage with something that clearly you're no longer in the room to respond back to. Scheduling is great, but its purpose is to give you that bit of extra time and space so that you can use it to engage with your audience, liking and sharing content from other creators, as well as planning your upcoming content. Remember as well to mix up your content. So you've got scheduled stuff, you've got links and videos and things that have come from your content creation, but also make sure that you're sharing from other creators so that it does mix up what people are seeing, and that it's showing that actually you're endorsing other creators as well.
And by other creators, who are you referring to there? Like when we're posting on behalf of a church, who would our other creators be?
Creators be. So for me, I work with the Baptist family. So if you're a local Baptist church, engage with your association, or if you're Anglican, your diocese or circuit, or I can't think of the other denominational names, but, there's kind of like regional groups, but also then your national groups. They have a lot of information, they have a lot of value and wisdom, and a lot of things that actually they might want to be seen by local people, and by you liking and sharing it, that will really help. Then also, if you're thinking as a local church, who are the local people around you? So whether that's your social services, but sort of service providers, your citizens advice, or warm welcomes that's going on at the moment, or if there's local community groups, are there people that use your buildings that they've got really important messages that you should share? Think about who are the people that might be coming through your doors, and what are the doors they might be going through. And for fun, local businesses, if you've got a really nice coffee shop nearby and you're a minister, you go for a walk, you pray for your community, and then you go and get a coffee at the local coffee shop, and you've built up a really lovely relationship with those people in there, and they know you as the vicar. You come in and you just, they're lovely, you're lovely. Just share a picture and say, it's lovely coffee. This is lovely. I just think
Everyone's lovely.
everyone is lovely. It's just nice to sort of go.
It's uplifting, isn't it? And it's showing that
Yeah,
you're part of the community, that it's
exactly.
not just a broadcasting, we love the people around us, but then not
You have to
actually
come to our
showing any
building.
ways that you are loving the people around us. Yeah, you're just inviting people to a church service. Yeah.
Yeah. And again, wouldn't it be wonderful if that cafe then knew the church, because they were endorsing the cafe frequently? The people from the church then went into the cafe a lot and were, real big supporters of the business.
Yeah.
And actually they went, oh, okay, we might not be Christians, we might not go to that church, but you know what? They're a pretty awesome bunch of people who are, constantly coming in and supporting what we're doing.
Yeah.
So then you say that you're doing something, I don't know, an appeal for something local, holiday hunger, child poverty, or you saying you're doing something for local international, not local, international aid, but a local collection for it, perhaps they'll come and support it. They might be able to do something within their business themselves.
Mm. Yeah, I mean, this is something I've experienced firsthand, not so much with social media, but just interacting with those sorts of venues. So
Mm.
I run a group, which is a networking group for Christian businesses in my area, which is Kent. And we hosted a social event in a coffee shop. I already knew the owners a little bit just from going there, relatively frequently. And after the event, I asked if they were happy for us to leave some of our flyers there, and they were. And I kind of figured that they'd just be put to the side, or like there was another bit with some flyers like right over the back where no one could see.
Mm.
And when I went in the other day, it was our flyer was like propped up front and center, like on their counter,
Aw.
and I thought that was fair enough. But even when I was in there, someone came over because they'd seen the flyer, asked the question, and the coffee shop owner said, "Oh, he's just sitting over there. Go and have a chat."
Aw.
So these relationships are part of sharing the gospel,
Mm.
and doing that with social media where we can, using that tool for everything that it's worth, is really important.
Yeah, no, absolutely. That's a really encouraging story. We hope this has given you a bit of an insight into how useful and efficient scheduling can be to your comms. Scheduling really does help to make social media management and content creation easier, but it's not just a set and forget, and does need a regular check in with what's going on, as well as seeking to engage with those who respond to what you post. If you have any questions, especially about your church's social media, do get in touch with us. Let us know what tools you use to schedule your content with, or if you'd like any further advice. All of our details can be found in the episode description, and we'd also love for you to connect with us on social media as well.